Yay. Look at that. We had a little morning balcony shower. Oh, I'm sorry. We did that. Oh, here we go. Yay, yay. I love your dress. And I like, follow your heart. That is so much. Brent and Karen, where are Brent and Karen? They're back there. You know what they're working on? They are going to remodel the parsonage. It is such a cool thing to do. And you know why it's a cool thing? Because it begins to be a tangible way. This church says what a pastor does for us here is really important, and we value it so much that we're even willing to house them. Isn't that cool? What a gift. But it doesn't just happen. It's going to take a lot of work. And Brent and Karen need a lot of work doing it. But here's the problem. Brent told me beforehand he didn't have enough measuring sticks. And measuring is one of the most important things to see how tall the boards need to be. Blah, blah, blah. So what he'd like you each to do is make up your own measuring stick. Any amount that you think should be about a foot or so. And bring that with you, and you can help him measure. How would that work out? If you thought a foot was this much, and you thought a foot was that much, and then you told Brent, I want 1 foot, what was he going to get? One this big or one this big? I don't, and it would be so confusing. Part of what the gospel writers are saying is, for we believers, there's only one measuring stick. And you know what that is? The love of Jesus Christ. When we use any other measuring stick, our measurements are way off. And they'll cause a lot of trouble. So when you come here, you go anywhere, when you need to measure, there's only one. And that is the love of Jesus Christ. Bring that measuring stick, then no matter what happens, it'll be great. Love you guys. See you next week. Grace, mercy, and peace to you from God our Father and our Lord and our Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Today our reading from Mark is a continuation of that travel section as he goes from Galilee and he's heading with his disciples into Jerusalem. And the disciples have already declared that they believe Jesus is the Messiah. He is the anointed one, or the chosen one of God, to bring God's reign, God's presence into that place and into that world. And where is this reign going to take place? Where does it begin? There's only one place for the chosen people for this reign to begin, and it can't be anywhere but Jerusalem. And now Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem, which means this kingdom, this presence of God is very, very close. And as they anticipate its closeness, it is only natural for them to begin to wonder what this new reign of God's kingdom is going to look like, and more specifically, what their role in this new kingdom is going to be. And as they begin to wonder and discuss what their role will be in this new kingdom, it leads to the very first church council fight. There is disagreement as they see their mission and their roles differently, and they each jockey for this, or do we think we need that more? When we gather here this morning, we too believe Jesus is the Messiah, the anointed one, the chosen, to bring God's kingdom, God's presence to this place. And as Jesus begins to bring God's presence to this place, he does so as Lihue Lutheran Church begins to transition into a new pastorate. And it is only natural for us to begin to look at what is that new kind of church going to look like here, and where is my place going to be in it. And Pastor Paul would never let me sing the solos. Maybe this pastor will. And there's some people who shouldn't ask. Some will want a younger pastor, some more mature. Some will want a flexible pastor, some will want one more organized. Some want a relaxed feel, others want someone who's dynamic and energetic. Some want someone who can bring lots of experiences and new ideas. Some want them just simply come in and don't change anything. On our way with Jesus today, as we move towards this new Jerusalem, this new time as God continues to work in our midst, it's only natural that disagreements and grumblings begin to break out. And it's not just at church. It's at our work and in friendships and raising families and planning our next trip to Kauai, planning our next 40 years of marriage. Are the Robolds here? Planning our next 40 years of marriage, planning for retirement. Yeah, we've gone around a couple of times. And suddenly, in the midst of this very private and what we believe very important conversation that the disciples are having with one another, Jesus interrupts and he asks them, "What were you talking about? What were you arguing about?" It was 8th grade math class. There is absolutely no value to math in the 8th grade. It has nothing to do with the real world. It had nothing to do with my life. However, my best friend Johnny Riva had just broken up with his girlfriend. And as he broke up with his girlfriend, she chose another guy who he didn't really like that much, but only so he could go, or she could go with him to the winter dance. And so Johnny was in this dilemma because he wanted to go to the winter dance, but he wanted to get a really hot girl that would make his former girlfriend very, very jealous. This was important stuff, and it couldn't wait to be resolved. And I knew the exact person he should ask. And so I wrote a note and I passed it to Johnny Riva. Unfortunately, the math teacher who taught things we didn't really need to know saw this motion. She confiscated the note. And then she invited me to come forward in front of the whole class and read what was so important and critical to my life. And suddenly I just realized how silly and petty it truly was. When Jesus asked his disciples, "What were you arguing about?" it's not to shame or destroy them, but it's an invitation, this wonderful invitation to take all those things you think are so momentous, so important, so life-giving or destroying, and put them into a larger love of this God and his presence here, and then have that discussion and see where it takes you. Today, this Jesus comes, and his invitation, he comes and says, "What are you discussing? What is your life about? What are the goals? What are the challenges? What are all those things?" And as you bring them, put them in this larger context, the conversation God is having with you, with this church, with this island, with this world, and then you begin to see what really matters. And that's when Jesus does the very first children's sermon. He places a child. This is not a cute, cleaned up Gerber baby kid. Babies back then were considered very low class and only women's work, and they should never interfere with important matters, and men always were about important matters. And Jesus takes this child and puts him in the center. The Greek doesn't really do it justice. He put him in the center, in their midst, is the way the translation, but literally is the center. The center was the place where the Greek teacher would sit. In the center, and what he begins to say is, "This is your teacher." And when you see this child, what is it we are to learn about this child? As these transitions begin to happen, what is it that we are to live out to be part of this kingdom? As my transition gets closer, I guess it's only natural, but you reflect back. And you kind of reflect back before you can move forward. And as I reflect back, I realized my life really kind of revolves around certain phases. And the first phase was I was single, and it was me alone as an adult. And I chose what college I wanted to go to. And I chose what majors I wanted to go to. And I chose where I wanted to live. And I chose what first call I wanted to have. And it was wonderful. And then after that, I entered into the second stage of my adult life, which was marriage. And it was still wonderful, but it just changed the I to a we. And we decided where we wanted to vacation, and we decided how we wanted to spend our money, and we decided what we wanted to do and when and how. And that we section lasted for a wonderful 5 years until the third section began. Children. And in this very strange third phase, I suddenly began to realize my life was not my own. It didn't matter what my schedule was. That child would dictate to me. She would dictate when I slept, and when I ate, and what I ate, and how I would spend my money, and the energy that was being poured out in every direction, in every kind of way that I would never have done before. And the amazing thing is, when you looked at that child sitting in the crib, there was not one thing that child could give me in return. Not one thing, except more demands and more dirty diapers, and they just kept coming. I thought we were having a child. It took me a long time to realize my child had me. And yet the most amazing thing, out of all the things I've done, that is the one I would never, ever change. What do we learn from this child? First, we learn we are the children of God. And it is this God that embraces us. And it is this God that centers us into the center of this kingdom. And it is this God that pours out his